Hello everyone, welcome to Everything Arsenal. We are back again, this time with Cozy. It's been long, but we are approaching the end of the season, 2 weeks to the end of the season. Will we win the title? Will we not? Will it change what you're going to do this transfer window? If we win the title, will it change what you're going to do this transfer window? If we don't, who knows? But that's the first question we're going to start with. But we'll be talking about the transfer window that is coming up. Are we expecting a lot of outgoings? Will Ramsdale be here? Which team will he go to? Raya's permanent signing. There's players like obviously El Neni, Cedric potentially leaving. Obviously, players like Nketiah, Smith Rowe, Nelson, their futures, Jesus, and so many others. We'll be covering a few of them, and also in terms of incomings, which strikers do you guys want? Which strikers would Cozy prefer at Arsenal, and all that. So, Cozy, how are you? And the first question for you is: do you think if we win the title this and the next 2 weeks, it will change our approach for the transfer window? And if we don't win, do you think it's going to be different, or it's just going to be the same, whatever happens?
Well, I'm absolutely fine. I'm really happy to be back home. This channel is like home to me, so I'm happy to be back and hope you guys have been well. Make sure you're hitting that button and smashing that subscribe bell as well. Now, I personally think that when it comes to Mikel Arteta and Edu, they go with a very proactive strategy rather than a reactive one, and we have seen it in recent summers. You look at a summer where the season has not really ended very well, and you think like, okay, we really desperately need a striker. We should go for a striker, but because they have already made a plan and they're like, we're going to sign in a defender and a midfielder, and we're working with them on the midfield right now. They will still go ahead and work on the midfield, and you will see improvements later. But they didn't look to work on that very pressing area that was, highlighted during the end of the campaign or back end of the campaign. So I don't think it would change. I don't think Mikel Arteta would suddenly jump onto another wagon just because the season has ended in a certain way or the other. Now, if we win the title, I would definitely say Mikel Arteta gets. And we are, as well as a club, we get a bit of attractiveness that we don't have right now. And I think many players would love to play for us. Many players would love to come to Arsenal and create that kind of impact. It's a project that he has built, and many players now want to be part of it. So if we win the title, I think we can start competing with Real Madrid for those top signings. Like, just imagine Arsenal winning the title and then calling up Alexander Isak, and we are like, we want you at the Emirates Stadium next season because we want to win. We want to defend the title. He would absolutely be very, very excited, right? He would be joining champions, but then he would be joining the most promising project in the in the league right now, in the country, in England right now. So I still think it changes in terms of what Arsenal can get. If you win the title, right? 5 years ago, you don't dream about signing Declan Rice because you're finishing 8th every single campaign, and he's definitely going to Chelsea. He's definitely going to Man City. He's definitely going to Liverpool. The last 3 years, Arsenal have gone back to the UEFA Champions League. Arsenal have competed for the title, and Declan Rice is like, wait a minute, I could write history, or with my name in this team. I could rewrite history with this team actually. And he looks at the longevity of this project. He is 24, 25, and he knows he's going to be playing for the next 7 years, winning trophies, competing on European fronts with this team. So I think winning the title would allow us go out there and, we would go for anyone. We could go for Vinicius Jr. If Mbappe goes to Madrid and Vinicius Jr. is like, I'm not safe, I don't feel secure, we could talk to him and we could get him. We could get Rafa Leao from AC Milan, because that is the level that we are waiting to reach. That is the way Real Madrid can get a Kaka, can get a Bale, can get a Bellingham, can get a Ronaldo, can get all these quality signings, because they were joining champions, and every player's dream is to win trophies. If we don't win the title, I think the plan really stays the same. The targets don't change, right? I kind of feel like it will be those, sayings that Mikel Arteta thinks they are 100%, 100%, sold onto the project, although we have not yet won silverware.
Yeah, that's a nice angle of looking at it, because I was looking at it like, maybe if we don't win the title and you go like 1 point close or 2 points close, maybe you're going to be very busy in the transfer window. But if we win it, maybe you'll be like, okay, let's maybe get one or two more, but keep it the same, because we've won the title. We now know we can beat Man City this team. So the way you're looking at it is, if we win the title, that can attract even more world-class players, and that's very very accurate. So before you come to the players who can come to Arsenal and players we've been linked to, we've already done a video on Cause's channel. Make sure to check it out. We talked about all the strikers we've been linked to, the likes of Bruno Guimaraes. We broke it down there as well. But first, let's start with Gabriel Jesus. He's at Arsenal right now. Last season, the time he came to Arsenal, the first 3 months from the first game where he played against Leicester, he was absolutely incredible. People are like, wow, we didn't actually know Gabriel Jesus could be like this, but it has unlocked him. And he got 11 goals last season in the Premier League. Actually, in all competitions, he got 11 goals. He played 26 games and that 3 games in all competitions. Now, this season is only featured in 25 Premier League games, and he's only scored 4 goals. Now, some of those games he's come off the bench, and obviously, some people are looking at it like Gabriel Jesus is not the answer. Can we get another player and sell Gabriel Jesus? But how are you looking at it? Because I'm going to give you my thoughts on Gabriel Jesus. Now, do you want him at Arsenal next season? Do you want us to invest in him and get other players that money? And if you want him to go, what's the main reason that for you wanting him to go? Is it because of the injuries, or is it because he's just not clinical enough and you look at 4 goals not being enough? What would be the main reason for you wanting to sell him?
Well, I've got to say that I've been really surprised with the kind of negative sentiment Arsenal fans have displayed towards Gabriel Jesus, pushing him out, thinking like it would be okay if Arsenal actually forced him out. I'm not desperate to see Gabriel Jesus leave. I'm not hungry, eager to see Gabriel Jesus leave. But this is the thing: where Arsenal are at the moment, we are moving and developing at a very, very quick rate. And I predicted this around 3 years ago. And I said, all these players cannot develop at the same rate. No, they can't. You look at Ben White, he kind of slowed down when he came in. This season, one of the best right backs in Europe. Then you look at Gabriel Jesus last season, when he came in, he changed Arsenal's world. That's what the words of Mikel Arteta. Same as Alexander Zinchenko. Right now, if you have a Tomiyasu Ozil and Timber playing at left back, you wouldn't call for Alexander Zinchenko, and many of these fans are actually saying, you don't play them again. So I think the world at Arsenal is changing very quickly because the players are young, they're hungry, and they are developing. So it could be injuries, it could be a lack of game time, it could be any reason, but you cannot afford to be left behind in this Arsenal train. Any player that has not played more than 20 games this campaign, consistently well, you're being looked at as dispensable. You're being looked at as a player that could actually leave through the door to raise some money to bring in players that are actually at the level where Arsenal are. So, do I want Gabriel Jesus to stay? I don't mind it. I really don't mind it. I would love him to be at Arsenal if he can stay fit, if he can give me 30 games every single campaign, because I know the quality he brings to this Arsenal side. I know he is a quality player. Look at that Bayern Munich assist for Leandro Trossard. And I was very disappointed with Mikel Arteta that Trossard didn't start in that Gabriel Jesus didn't start in that game, and I think Trossard as well didn't start, because for me it was highlighted very well that we needed players that were really quick, and we needed quick feet to break down Bayern. So when you think about quick feet, you think about versatility. He is your guy. So you cannot be desperate to kick out versatility at the moment when you're looking for a backup left winger and a backup right winger, and probably a backup striker if Arsenal maybe don't successfully get in the target they want. My problem with Gabriel Jesus, can he stay fit, right? And I think this is the thing that Mikel Arteta is looking at. Can he stay fit? We're hearing rumors that Arsenal will listen to offers. And the reason that has been quoted by The Athletic is that he really can't stay fit. He's having knee problems, and those knee problems are becoming a problem. So he's going to have another surgery potentially this summer before going for preseason with Arsenal, right? And there is no guarantee that he's going to be fit, fit again, for a long period of time. So if the medics and the medics have to come out here and be very straight with Arsenal and Mikel Arteta, because this is a do or die season that we're going in for, Europe and also in the Premier League. The medics have to come out and say, is he ready to go for 30 games. Is his problem, solvable? Can we get? Can we look at some days, brighter days beyond his injury? If it's okay, then I don't have a problem with him. We can actually keep him. But if his injury is a problem for him, I think then he's good to go. Then secondly, how does Mikel Arteta view Gabriel Jesus? Does he look at him as a winger and a versatile guy that can play across the line? Or does he look at him as purely a number 9? When we signed him, he said, I'm a number 9. I thought I was a winger, but no, I am a number 9, right? I've seen it and I believe it. I'm a number 9. If Mikel sees him as a number 9 and the player sees himself as a number 9, I think is a number 9 in Saudi Arabia. I think he's a number 9 at Barcelona. He's a number 9 maybe at Chelsea. At Arsenal, I don't think he is your number 9. We have seen what Kai Havertz can do. If you can get an upgrade to Kai Havertz, that is your number 9. So it's going to depend on the position that the player is comfortable in. If he's okay deputizing Saka and competing with Gabriel Martinelli, because the left wing is up for grabs. I've seen him play there against Brighton. He was not bad. Missed a couple of chances, but brought in a penalty with a silky move. So I would love to see him shift from the middle area to the wings. Left wing, right wing, compete with those boys and try to beat them, right? So if he's going to play a winger role, and he's not going to hinder us from bringing in a striker, and he's not going to hinder us from playing the quality striker that we brought in, then I don't have a problem. He stays.
Okay, so you said the medical team should look at it like, can he play like 30 games? Now, if we get a striker, which we're going to talk about, this is how I'm looking at it. Like, just like Partey, I did say I want Partey to stay in January, and I said even if it means he only plays 5 games at the end of the season, I'm okay with that. Now, there's some people who look at it like, 5 games alone and he's getting paid 200,000 a week, then that's not enough. Now, that could be true, but when you're going to compete with Man City have players they signed for 100 million on the bench, like Grealish every single game. Now, for me, I look at Jesus like someone like Alvarez does not play every day these days for Man City. He sits on the bench even for 2 complete games, and then he comes in for the 3rd game. Now, is Jesus getting injured? Was he getting injured? Now, the injury came from Brazil, obviously at the World Cup. But is it always consistent injuries because it's playing every single day? Because I remember when he recovered right away, I think this season around September, October, he was playing against Argentina right away, the first game. And he came to us, so he played every single game without sitting on the bench. And then he got injured again. Now, can we manage that better? Can Brazil manage that better? Now, for Brazil, I don't think they really care about managing it if he's fit. And there's not really a starter there anyway, Richarlison starts and stuff. But for us, can we manage it better? Can we, first game next season, maybe you're playing Ipswich at home, you play Jesus as a striker in that game. But the second game, away at Crystal Palace, and 3rd game, maybe at home to Leicester, Jesus is on the bench for the second. He doesn't really play. 3rd one maybe comes on for 10 minutes. And then in the Champions League game, he starts and plays maybe 70 minutes. And then the next 2 games doesn't play again. And then you just worry about his injury, and you know how to control it. Now, I bring up the Champions League because now this is on 4 league goals in the league. That's not really enough, obviously. That's quite low. Now, we are thankful that Trossard and Havertz have brought in goals to our team, because those are goals we didn't have last season. Trossard did not score goals last season. He was more like an assist guy than a goals guy. This season, he's brought in 11 plus goals in the Premier League and goals in the Champions League as well. And Havertz is scoring as well, and that has helped us get through Martinelli not scoring and Jesus not scoring. That is absolutely fine. But in the Champions League, and even in the league, some games, Jesus, there's 2-3 things I really love about him. Number one is the way he gets involved in duels and stuff. There's a chance we created against the other day when he played against Bournemouth. It is a chance we created. I think Rice got the ball and ran with it on the right side and gave it to Saka, and I think Saka shot, it was saved. That came from Havertz winning the ball in midfield, but people will not see that because Havertz did not score assists in that situation. But he came back and got the ball in that situation. Now, Jesus does a lot of that. He comes back to midfield, he gets the ball, he gives us a lot of energy. He can create chances as well. In the Champions League, we saw that a lot. You talked about the chance he created, I think, for the pass he gave to Trossard in the Champions League. That was absolutely incredible. In the Champions League this season, I think I think he's potentially maybe our best or second best player in the
Yeah,
Champions League
he
this
is our
season.
best. He's been our best player in the
He was
Champions League.
really
He
good.
loves the
That
competition.
that performance against Sevilla away from home, he's the
Yeah,
one who made us win that game.
yeah.
That turn and pass to Martinelli and that goal he scored in the second half, that's because of him. The goals he scored against Lens and PSV, he was really good for us in the Champions League. And I see that quality. And against Man City, played on the wing and he played really, really well. So I'm looking at it like I want Jesus to stay at Arsenal, mix it up. Today he
Actually,
starts maybe as a striker.
I
Some
had
games he
someone
plays
who
on the left wing.
I had someone who told me that we should keep Gabriel Jesus only exclusively for the Champions League. I mean, it's nonsensical for someone to say that, but I kind of understand, where they come from when you say.
We also need to remember
When you refer to his Champions League performances, he's been absolutely lighting it up in the Champions League.
there's more games in the Champions League next season. So
Yeah, by the way,
play more
eight,
games.
eight, is it eight
Yeah.
in the group stages replacement?
That's a lot. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
I
That's
think
a
it's
lot.
I even wonder when it's going to be played. But when you have Jesus there, you can play him in a couple of those Champions League games. If he's not available, you don't really may say you have another player.
Yeah.
Now,
and I think as well, football has evolved from first 11s to second 11s to squads. I think it's now much more about the squad. It's not about who is in your first 11 and second 11, because many people think that he has dropped to the second 11, which in the old football terms he's actually dropped to. But in terms of the modern football, he's part of the squad. He's part of Arsenal's strong squad. He's part of those that squad that goes away or is at the Emirates Stadium against Bayern, and Bayern are leading that game, and Arsenal need an equalizer, and he comes on and he changes the game. So he's part of the squad. He's not a second 11 player. He's part of the squad.
Yeah, and if you have the option of bringing in Gabriel Jesus from the bench, I think that's great. I think people would prefer having Jesus coming off the bench than, let's say, an Edin Nketiah. And he has the experience. He's still 27 years of age. He still has a long way to go. Now, a couple of things that would change would be next season. I said Vieira, let's say the second season. Now, obviously, he's been injured a lot of this, and so I still don't know what we'll do with him. But for Gabriel Jesus, now, if you go to next season and he plays, today, doesn't play tomorrow, he gets rested today, but he only plays one game and then he gets injured and then he misses 2 months, then he comes back and he plays 2 games and then gets injured again, then maybe next summer we can look at what we can do, because we'll have gone further than that. Because as you say, these days we are moving on from players very quickly. Like I had someone saying at the beginning of the season, Sales in Zinchenko and Jesus has moved on from them. And like, they just came 8 months ago and they're the ones who go to such a position. We're already moving on from them. Guys, we are really good. You're moving on from them. Wow.
I have 5 people who said, don't ever let Zinchenko train with the team near them again.
Come on, man. And for me, Zinchenko is another one that I would personally keep, but not as a starter,
I'll keep,
just as a squad player.
Well,
I feel like these are not our players that we should sell. So for Gabriel Jesus, yes, 4 goals is not enough. I do know that he misses chances, like the game like against Brighton. I see him Havertz creating a lot of good chances and he misses. But then again, he's not the only one that misses chances. Like that January-February period, Havertz was missing a lot. Saka was missing a lot. Martinelli was missing a lot. Haaland misses like 10, 20 good chances every 5 games. So it depends on how many chances you can create, but it depends. So Graham Bailey reported this earlier today. Al-Qadisiyah, I think, of Saudi Arabia, are keen on signing Arsenal striker Gabriel Jesus this summer. Although it remains to be seen if he's keen on joining the Saudi Pro League. Arsenal have told Jesus that they will not stand in his way, but they also insist that they are not actively looking to sell. So that's the second thing that could change. As I said, the first one is if he plays 1 game and then gets injured and then plays 2 games and gets injured again, that is a problem. The second thing would be, does he want to be a squad player? Is he comfortable with playing today and not playing for 2 games like a Julian Alvarez? Do you think he'd be comfortable with that, or do you think he thought like Arsenal will be starting for Arsenal? And maybe I think last season he was promised that now you're the main guy at Arsenal, but now these things have changed. Do you think he'd be happy with that, or he'll be like a Ramsdale and say, nah, I just want to move on to someone I'm going to play?
But I think that there are players that we are looking at their final season when it comes to next season, and Jesus is one of them in terms of game time. He's a mentality monster. He's a monster. When you look at him play, and he's playing with confidence, he's playing with full fitness, you don't want to go against him. I don't think that kind of guy, one of the hardworking, strikers in the world, one of the best pressers in world football. I don't think he wants to be a squad player. I don't think he wants to feature in the FA Cup and come on for 12 minutes against Bayern. I think he wants the bigger chunk of the meat. So I don't see him as a player who's going to settle for less. I don't really see him as that. I think his interview recently says it all. He says he's troubled with injuries, and he says if I'm going to cut my knee open again, I will do it. I want a full preseason with Arsenal, and then it will be a very different story. For me, he's got the ability to start ahead of Trossard and Martinelli when he's fit on the left hand side. He's got that technical ability. He's got that understanding of the game, and I think he's a Mikel Arteta darling as well. I think none of Trossard and Martinelli understood more or understand more of Mikel Arteta than Gabriel Jesus. So I think he would find a way of squeezing him in. But I don't think he would settle for being a squad player. I tell you something. I think Kai Havertz. I'm sorry to say this. It could be a misjudgment, but I think Kai Havertz could be, this kind of guy that comes in for 40 minutes, 30 minutes, or 20 minutes, and then he stays at the club for 2 years. I don't think Gabriel Jesus is that. I don't think even Alexander Zinchenko is actually that. The reason as why these guys signed for Arsenal, they were running away from a Man City that was not giving them enough opportunities. And they said, no, I don't want to be a second to Haaland. I don't want to be a second to Nathan Ek and Givardio. I want to have my own place in starting in a team, right? Now, have things gone to their way? No, they've not gone according to plan. Alexander Zinchenko has been exposed defensively, and Mikel Arteta is a big guy on defense. And then Gabriel Jesus has had his bit of injuries, as well. And the team needs goals, and the team needs goal scorers, and he's not delivering at the moment when he's fit. So probably Mikel is going to have to bite the bullet and tell them, hey guys, this is what I had envisioned, but this is the direction in which the project is going. What do you see? And I think Jesus will still go to a top European side next summer. That could be Barcelona. I could see him at Barcelona. I don't know why. And then Zinchenko still I could see him at Barcelona, Juventus, or even a Bayern Munich. So I don't think he's going to sit on the bench. I don't think he's that guy. I don't think he will settle for it.
So personally, you would keep Jesus for next season?
Yeah, I would keep Jesus for next season. Sign a striker. Keep Kai Havertz. Get rid of Eddie. He's homegrown, 100% profit, and I would be okay.
But if you're a betting guy, would you say Jesus would be here next season?
If I was a betting guy,
would you put your house and say yes? Jesus would definitely
there are no 50-50s here. There are no 50-50s here. I'll be honest. I see him as one of those players that live in the last month of the transfer window.
Wow, that would be very interesting. Personally, I would definitely keep him. I feel like there's slight chance that he might leave, but I feel like he's going to get a third season at Arsenal.
If I'm a betting guy, right, and you ask me to place my bet on whether he stays or leaves, I think the bigger part is he stays, and that's where there is no bigger return on investment, right? I think he's a Mikel Arteta guy. He's had his injuries, and Mikel Arteta still believes there is a player there. But then on the other side is the bigger multiplication of your stake is, and that side is where you have Arsenal spend a lot of money on a striker. They need to get some of that money back. Gabriel Jesus, we get an offer for 70 million, maybe from Saudi Arabia, right? Or maybe we get an offer for 60 million from a European side. And Mikel Arteta is like, am I really going to play this guy regularly? Really? I don't think so. And if the agent is open to a move, I think he will move. I think it's entirely depending on the player. I think Arsenal have shown their side. We want to get a striker, and we already have Kai. So it's entirely dependent on Arsenal. If Arsenal, on the player and his agent, if they feel we want to stay here and fight, then he will stay. But if they have any doubts when it comes to the future of the player at Arsenal, I think they'll pack up their bags. They will go.
As I said, personally, I would keep him, and I feel like there's a lot of games next season. And next season, I want us to compete more in the FA Cup and Carabao Cup. I feel like these players can help. Now, one of the reasons Jesus is not playing these days is because of a certain Kai Havertz. Now, this season in the Premier League, Arsenal have 4 players, 15. Well, I wish four players who've scored 15 have contributed to 15 plus goals in the Premier League only. Odegaard has contributed to 16. Rice has contributed to 15, and Saka, just in his own world, is contributed to 25. Havertz has contributed to 18, and we did a video before the season began on a different channel, and Cozy did say that Havertz is going to score at least 15 goals. He now has 12 goals and 6 assists, and a lot of people do not believe in that. I did say he's going to get at least 12 goals. He has gotten those 12 goals in the league, plus another one in the Champions League, and especially recently, I think him and Odegaard, since we came back from Dubai, and maybe Ben White as well, they've been out of this world. And in some games, yes, people still watch it. Like Bayern Munich, he was extremely quiet, and people are like, nah, this is not the answer, all that. But some games you watch it, like Brighton, even that assist he gave to Trossard to go 1-on-1. The goal he scored from that Jorginho pass. The other day against Bournemouth, he should have had like 4 assists. Saka missed a couple from his crosses. And the way he was turning, the way he was holding up the ball. And I feel these days, like, defenders feel like, oh, Arsenal have Havertz. I always watch other opposition teams when they're playing us, and I hear what they have to say about us. And I had Bournemouth fans and Chelsea fans saying, "Yeah, we need to worry about Odegaard, Saka." And even these days, Havertz, is getting involved in the goals. You need to take care of his runs and stuff, and that's great. Like having a player that people worry about. Now, when you signed for Arsenal, did you feel like it'd be better for us as a striker, or did you think as a midfielder? Now, for me, I have to admit, I was not too worried about him playing as a midfielder. I was actually seeing the idea. I was like, okay, Havertz as a midfielder, he can get into the box, and that helps us have like 2 strikers on the pitch at the same time. I don't mind that. And he was playing as a midfielder in the beginning of the season, but it was obviously not working. So how did you feel? Did you feel like, nah, he's not a midfielder for us, he's a better striker? Or do you still feel like even if he plays as a midfielder a couple of games, personally feel even if he plays as a midfielder a couple of games next season, I wouldn't mind it? Because if you're talking about having a striker, I actually don't really mind having Havertz playing in a couple of games in the midfield, and then some games you have maybe, let's say, a Gyökeres up front. Or how do you see it with Havertz? How has he impressed you this season? And next season, what would you like to do with him next season?
Well, I tell you, the prediction I had with Kai Havertz, we were together when I said he would be one of the players that would score lots of goals, and I said around 15 or 14 around, and Arsenal's top scorers. But the thing with Kai is when he came in, I thought he would be a midfielder, and I'm going to disappoint people by saying I still think his position in Mikel Arteta's mind is a midfielder. So when you look at the Aston Villa game, there is no way you explain how a partnership of Jorginho, Rice, and Odegaard has worked in midfield with Kai Havertz up top, or Partey, Rice, and Odegaard in midfield with Kai Havertz up top has worked against 11 or 9 teams, including Man City, and then you suddenly say this won't work against Aston Villa. So it shows that the manager signed him as a midfielder, part of that 4-3-3, but the goal scoring midfielder, the goal scoring part of that midfield. So we've seen it at times when clubs have played, and I always talk about the Rom Doita role of Thomas Muller. He will be there, but he's the goal scoring part of the midfield. Odegaard is the creative part of the midfield, and then you will have one more guy in that position that dictates play and wins the ball back. So look at I want us to look at Granit Xhaka last season, and Declan Rice was played in that position where Kai Havertz started this season. What is the similarity between the two? Getting into the penalty area lots of the time. They have huge numbers in terms of assists and huge numbers in terms of goals. 7 for Declan Rice, 7 for Rice for Xhaka last season. 7 assists for Declan Rice, 7 assists for Xhaka last season. And what is actually very interesting is that Declan Rice is having one of the campaigns where he scored lots of goals in his entire career. Declan Rice is a 4-goal striker, a midfielder, 1-goal, midfielder, 2-goal midfielder, and that has been his, maximum. And we have all said he does that because he's actually a 6. He's actually, a ball winner. But honestly, if we are honest, Mikel Arteta has seen that he can play in that position, right? So for me, I still think Kai will play there in midfield, and I think he will still score goals because the more Arsenal go into next season, probably Timber is going to push up a little bit. He will be in the starting 11, and he will push up in that position where you're having your, maybe Declan Rice, and he's going to be part of that defensive pivot. So that means that you can have Kai Havertz push up a little bit further forward into the penalty area, and that is what he's doing this campaign. But credit to Mikel Arteta, he has seen that the player he's brought in is still struggling in midfield, and then he has identified another position where this guy is absolutely very strong. Credit to him as a manager, because most of us, including myself, I would just drop him. I would have just dropped him, from midfield to the bench. But Mikel Arteta has worked his way around it until he's found a great position for him. Now, do I think that is where he should play in the future? Personally, no. Right? Because what he's going to do, that's going to create a bit of criticism for him. Because he's not your out-and-out striker, he's going to get the chances, but he's not a lethal finisher like your Gyökeres, maybe Erling Haaland. So Arsenal fans are going to start saying, yes, he does score 15, but he's missing a lot of chances. Look at the Chelsea game. He missed like 3 chances at half time, and then he buried, I think, 2 in the second half, right? So I would still say he is my midfielder who scores goals from the left-hand side. I don't think that we have seen enough from the left-hand side this season. Martinelli, Trossard, Havertz, Rice, there is no partnership there. And if it's not for Saka, Ben White, and Odegaard, and that partnership on the right-hand side, I don't think Arsenal would be where they are right now. So I still would say he's a success as a signing. His versatility, we talked about it. I think it has come in handy. And he's one of the players that Mikel Arteta will go to church and say, I thank God he's a versatile player. What would I have done with 75 million down the drain, or 60 million down the drain? So versatile. I still think that in some games where Arsenal need to go long, we'll be using him as a centre forward, and his pressing is over the moon, top class in terms of his pressing. So you can play him with another striker, and you are sure you're going to be winning the ball high up the pitch, and you're going to be creating counter attacks on the half turn. You're going to be creating chances very, very quickly. I think he's a perfect player for us. For our system, he's perfect.
I absolutely agree. And something I want us to also have next season is the surprise element, which you mentioned on Cause's video. I want to, the opponent doesn't even know whether Timber is going to start as the left back or a right back in this particular game. Someone like Declan Rice, will he start as a number 6 in this game, or will he start as a number 8? If both Jorginho and Partey here next season, will Partey play in this game, or is it going to be Jorginho? Havertz, will he start as a midfield in this game and strike up from? I wouldn't mind seeing Havertz in midfield for even 2-3 games next season, sometimes coming on as a midfielder, sometimes coming on as a striker, because some situations, let's say if you start with Jorginho, Rice, and Odegaard, and then you start with the striker, and then Havertz is on the bench, if you're losing 1-0, I think Arteta would prefer taking off a Jorginho, dropping Rice to the number 6, and bringing in Havertz, so you have another attacker. I wouldn't mind such situation, but I really want to see a surprise element this one, and I think the players that we have, if most of them stay and we bring in others, is going to be surprising. You don't know where Havertz is going to start, where Jesus is going to start, whether Martinelli is going to be on the bench or start, whether Trossard is going to play as a number 8, as the left wing or the striker. It's going to be really good. Now, striker. Which striker will it be, though? Now, we've been linked to several of them. There's 3 or 4 that are the main ones, and let's start with Isak first. So Isak, obviously, this season for Newcastle has been absolutely incredible. I think he's going to finish this season with 20+ goals. If it was not for Haaland, it would have been potentially, I think Isak will end up finishing second on that list, because I'm looking at the fixtures. I fancy him to score against Brighton. I fancy him to score against Man United as well. And he's been really, really good this season. So let's say it was last summer. If it last summer, were you looking at Isak as someone that you really wanted, and now you're just like, yeah, this is why I also wanted him last season, or this season, what he's done this one has made you feel like, wow, this one has really impressed me. I really want him to be our next season striker.
The truth is that last summer I was not having Isak on my list. Like, no, he was nowhere near. Now, he didn't have a bad season, but he had more of an average season. And I was like, yeah, he's your Newcastle striker. They did a good, they did good business. He's gonna be there for 5, 7, 10 years. Scoring for them 10 to 13 goals a campaign. Yeah. But this season, he has actually stood up and he has stepped up his game. And by the way, you're talking about a guy who has missed 2 months with due to injury this campaign. He's missed 2 months of footballing action, and we're talking about a guy who's potentially going to finish with 20 plus goals in a campaign where Newcastle have been nowhere near decent for me. I'm sorry, I don't think they've been anywhere near what they were last campaign, or anywhere near what any true Geordie fan would actually really want them to be. So if he has been the light at the end of the tunnel, if he has been the guy holding the candle, right, at a side that is not really creating very much for him, right? He's one of the strikers that I've been looking at, his statistics. He's outscoring his XG. The number of goals he's scoring is more than the opportunities that he actually has. That means that he's scoring more goals from his own creation as compared to the players around him. The creative Sandro Tonali, picked up that ban. Bruno Guimaraes has been running that midfield alone ever since Joe Linton, picked up that injury. You just look at him. He's been playing with kids, like really with kids from the academy at times, and he's been over them on. So I would say he can be a difference maker at Arsenal, however, not a goal machine. Now, I think when I look at what Arsenal needs, we need either an Erling Haaland or a Salah, one of those two. Because what helped Liverpool to thrive is you have a Bobby Firmino, who is like, for me, your Kai Havertz. Sensational 15 goals, poacher every season, 15 to 18, around there. He'll get them. But then they have a Salah. Salah is your 30 goal machine a campaign. He will always, chip in 25 plus. Is that Alexander Isak on the wings? Probably not, right? But the one thing I love about him is that you can play him on the forward line. He's just a forward. He's not just your striker. He's a forward, complete forward. He will take on a player. He will take on a player with pace. He will, beat a player 1v1. He can score a header at times. His heading ability is really poor, but he's tall. You can actually work with that, work on that with him. And I think he's one of the progressive strikers that we have on the world market. Like progressive in a way that every season he adds something, right? He adds something every single campaign. When you look at his 2 campaigns at Real Sociedad, his last 2 campaigns, yes, the last season he didn't score as many goals as the first campaign, but you can see that there is a development in a player, and therefore Newcastle felt he is now worth signing for 60 million. When he came in last season, didn't score many goals, around 12 goals, again double figures for a team like Newcastle. This season, still double figures, but the elevated double figures. So I'm really convinced that him thriving in the Premier League, him thriving in a system that doesn't have really big creators, and him thriving in a system, by the way, for Newcastle, again, they're not among the sides that you tip to win each and every game they win. Like, I would say 100% they win every game against Sheffield 9-0, honestly. But when it comes to Arsenal, Tottenham, Man City, Man United, Liverpool, Brighton, they have around 10 to 12 opponents. You wouldn't say they're just going to win that game, right? So in terms of him being in a side that dominates games, that is not happening, right? So I would love to see him in a team that dominates games. I would love to see him in a team that puts the ball on a source for him. What can he do? He could be a different player. So for me, you told me that you love Isak and he would be among your top 2, top 3 targets. I kind of agree with you. Not a bad player, and he has already showed what he can do. What I'm not agreeing with is he's the next Henry Thierry. Not really. I'm not. I'm not into that bus yet.
So it broke down more on Isak on Ko's channel as well. So make sure to check that out. Now, Isak is not the only striker that we want. Now, a couple of questions first. Now, number one, what would be your priority? Is it to get how much would you be? Let's ask this one first. How much would you be willing to spend on a striker this summer?
Striker this summer, 80 million.
So 80 million for a striker. From the other 120 million, if you had 200 million budget, what are you looking at? At a winger, midfielder? What are you looking at with that 120 million?
So for me, an extra million would go into the attack, and I've already said it, and I'll say it again. I think Arsenal need a world-class winger, and I know I love Gabriel Martinelli, and I think he's really, really talented. But for me, Arsenal need now to go out there and get themselves a Salah move. That changed Liverpool. That really, really changed Liverpool. Having Salah, Mane, and Roberto Firmino, that was the start of the problems that teams suffered. Manchester United can tell you a bit of that, and Arsenal as well. Salah, Mane, Firmino, that is the kind of front three I would want Arsenal to recreate in Saka, Havertz. I mean, a Rafael Leao wouldn't be bad, and I think Arsenal are at the level where we can attract Rafael Leao. Maybe 90 million could get him away from AC Milan. He's just signed a new deal. Maybe that's a difficult deal. But Rodrigo is one player I look at, and I'm like, if Mbappe goes in there, there is your Vinicius. They also have Jude Bellingham. It's going to be a scramble and partition. We're going to have a fight for power, a Neymar power struggle with Messi, where he eventually leaves to PSG. I think one of Rodrigo and Vinicius will leave. Manchester have been linked with Rodrigo. They've also been linked with Vinicius. I think Arsenal need to put their footing in there. So I would go with a 100 million for a winger, 80 million in a striker. For me, I know Arsenal are desperate on getting on another defender. I think this defense could go another season doing well. That midfield, if you keep Partey, you keep Jorginho, Declan Rice is fit. Yes, there might be a conversation to be had about a number 6, right? Might have a conversation, but you can also go and get a guy like Youssef Fofana for 20 million. His contract is running down at Monaco. You can go and get that guy and transform in, because he's a powerhouse. We saw him what he did against Arsenal. He's a powerhouse, a midfield dynamite. So for me, it's the attack guy. It's Glenn is the attack. That's what I would deal with this summer.
That's interesting. So you would spend more on a winger and less on a striker.
Yeah, I would spend more on a winger and less on a striker, because I know Kai Havertz is not going to go away, and Mikel Arteta is going to look at him as a big part of our goals, a very, very big part of our goals. So I think any striker that comes in is not going to be Arsenal rely on me. No, it's going to be more of a supplement. If Kai gets 18, can I get 12? Can I get 17 or 20, in that campaign? And Arsenal really create a little chances. So even if you brought in an Ivan Ferguson, he would get 20 goals at some point in time. Maybe not first 2 seasons or 3, but he would gradually, graduate into that, 20 plus goal category. So for me, I would go for a winger. That left-hand side needs transformation. I would spend money there.
That's very interesting. So let us know in the comment section, would you be willing to spend more money on a striker, or would you be looking at a winger like Kozi, like Leao? There's some others that are maybe available, like Kvaratskhelia, Rodrigo, people like that who might leave Madrid. You don't like Kvaratskhelia?
I like Kvaratskhelia. My problem with him is that he's too decorative, right? He's more. If you watch him, you think he's Brazilian, but if you just add goals to his game, he's so good, very good.
So we talked about Gyökeres and Sesko on Koz's channel. Make sure to check that one out. Now, there's one player I want to bring up once again that has gone quiet. Now, I don't know which team is going to end up at. So Kvaratskhelia teammate. Would you still be interested in Osimhen, or have you moved from that train? Or are you like, it's too much money? Or let's say if they said right now, okay, 90 million, would you still go for someone like an Osimhen?
Well, I've seen Fabrizio say that Arsenal and Chelsea are the two clubs that are really, really big on Osimhen, and he said that in January as well. So I don't think that interest has actually gone away. The fact that Arsenal looked at him for more than 1 year, it means that they have the data to actually, go and sign him. So I think he's a player that definitely is big on our list. Would I go and sign him? I don't want to lie. I did a video ranking our striker options and targets, and in the 20+ goal category, I put two players: Lautaro Martinez and Victor Osimhen. I don't want to disrespect him. Victor Osimhen has things he needs to work on in his game, like some big things. But he's also still a young striker. But I would be big on him. I would really be big on him. I think there was a time where I was really not convinced about him. And you remember when I was telling you that he's not done it at the big stage. He needs one big season. What? He's done it. He's done it, and he's won the title for Napoli, right? And I think he took them to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. Was it quarterfinals or semi?
Last season, yeah.
Last season, quarterfinals. I think he's a selfish bastard. And I love a selfish bastard for a center nine. I like that guy that thinks about himself on the score sheet before anything else. Because anytime he gets on the score sheet, the score line is in our favor. I would still be big on him. Now, Aurelio De Laurentiis is not easy to negotiate with. Napoli will want the money, and they know how to sell. Like they sold Gonzalo Higuain to Juventus for like a king's ransom. A lot of money. So I know that De Laurentiis is one of the best sellers on the market. I think followed by he follows the Tottenham guy, who is also another crook as well in terms of selling.
Levy
will sell you a scarecrow at 100 million. His pricing is a little bit overhyped. I would say this: Osimhen is another 85 to 90 million striker. You get him there, he's with you for the next 10 years. He will back the goals. Wherever he goes, wherever he will be, he will back the goals.
Very interesting. Now, this is not where the conversation is going to stop. Obviously, 2 weeks until the end of the season, and the transfer window is going to be very busy in June and July. So expect more videos from me and Kozi on this channel, on his channel as well. It's going to be very, very interesting. But we've covered Gabriel Jesus. Would you like him to stay or not? What would be the reason for you to sell him? Is it the injury and all that? We've talked about Havertz as well. Have you been impressed with his performances, or are you still doubtful and you still want someone to come and play instead of him? Would you like to see him in midfield? And also Osimhen and Isak and those guys, who would you want as a striker? And if you want us, if you want the latest on the likes of Sesko and Gyökeres, we talked about that on Kozi's channel. The link will be in the title. You can just click on that to go on to Kozi's channel and check it out. But as of now, appreciate you guys watching. Thank you very much, and I'll catch up with you on the next one.